Tansei. Bonjour. Hello. My name is Kim Coltman, and I am the founder of Fashion Speaks International. I'm also the writer, director, and producer of Indigenous Voices in Fashion. And I'm coming to you today from the ancestral and unceded territories of the Secwepemc people. And I appreciate their hospitality. Today we want to talk to you about Indigenous voices in fashion and what that actually means to Indigenous fashion designers. When I started Fashion Speaks International, I did so because of the issue of missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people. The outcry in the press was finally where we needed it to be. And I felt that it was vital that we pick up on that and we don't let it go. So I set out to build a coalition of fashion industry professionals who all have that same issue in mind and are dedicated to finding a way to prevent it, stop it, and find our missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls and hold those responsible for it accountable. I wanted to give you a little bit of my history. I have been a fashion model since 1972, and now I feel that it's my turn to hold that door open for other Indigenous fashion models that are out there. So I've been working with another group called International Indigenous Fashion Week, as well as with AMA Imagery and RDC Photography. And we have been promoting Indigenous fashion designers, fashion models, makeup artists, hairstylists, and others who are involved in this industry, while we try to find a way to deal with the issue of MMIW. Each of our fashion designers will tell you a little bit about their stories. They will tell you how they started, what inspires them, how they see us moving forward in terms of MMIW and fashion and the arts, and how the fashion and the arts can help us to heal.
Aiswael Sandra Frower, Telsqui, Talitsa Kwa Squaw, Stalotel. Hello, good day. My name is Sandra Frower. My family is from Squaw First Nation, and we are Stalo.
My name is Michelle. I come from the Treaty 4 territories out in Regina, Saskatchewan, and I'm currently residing in the beautiful Coast Salish territories in Vancouver.
Hi, my name is Val Davidson, and I'm the creator of Giggy's Beads Boutique. My traditional name is Misko Monje Kwe, which translates to Red Loon Woman.
My name is Linda K. Peters. I'm originally from Northern Ontario, Red Lake, Ontario. I was born and raised there, and my dad moved us to Hope, BC in 1965.
So wait, Kahoitib, Ashley Michelle and Squeck, such a Kamloops BC Secwepemc. Hello, my name is Ashley. I am Secwepemc from the Secwepemc Nation here in Kamloops Indian Band, and I am the owner and artist of 4 Generations Creations.
Tanzay, my name is Carol Labucan. I am the business owner of Creations Leatherworks and Clothing here in Chase, BC, in the unceded territory of the Secwepemc Nation.
My fashion line is called Eco Tripping, and it's all dyed with living color from Mother Earth. I go out walking and foraging just like my ancestors did for nuts, seeds, barks, and botanicals. And it's really precious work to me to be co-creating with Mother Earth. And it gives me such a feeling of being literally rooted with my ancestors. After I foraged for my raw materials, then I open my materials. Sometimes I use silks, cottons, linens, and I open the materials in order to take the plant substrains. And so sometimes in my work you'll find my Coast Salish ancestors survived on some of the things that I'm bundling into the silk. For instance, like salal was used for thickening agent, the berries, or for taste, and the leaves were used for suppressing the appetite. First Nations designers really know sustainability. We are brought up with never taking too much and always using all of our materials that are chosen. This line is so important to me to give back to the 7th generations to come. So I'm really proud of doing work that is leaving the planet a better place. And I am just getting such a connection to the virtues of plant. When you're wearing living color, it's just the most amazing feeling. And to know that you're doing something that is so healthy and so good for the environment.
I started Native by Nature from, it was actually a part of one of my songs, from my first debut song, music video called Get That Money, and something about that third verse, I said Native by Nature, and I was like, that would actually look really good on a t-shirt. I think some of the barriers that I was having issues with was learning the business side of things and learning like how to get a website, how to properly go about it when it comes to the online presence. So that was like my biggest obstacles of, starting this brand and getting the word out and, actually having it work well online. The message that I want to send from my creations is to be proud to be Indigenous, to be loud and proud, to hold that Native pride, because in our days it was kind of frowned upon. So now let's be proud about it.
I'm Anishinaabe from Manitoba, and I'm currently living on the unceded territory of the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish people. So the jewelry that I do is a fusion of traditional and modern one-of-a-kind beading. The designs are worn in everyday fashion, from cultural events to haute couture. Some of the earrings have been seen in fashion shows, have been in fashion shows in New York, London, Paris, Santa Fe, Toronto, Vancouver. So that's just to name a few.
I've always known how to sew from the age of probably 5 years old. When my mom, I tore her clothing bag. I tore her clothing bag and she made me hand sew it up. And that was, I was probably around six, and I never knew how to sew, but I learned fast. And then when I got to be a teenager, I started to make my own clothes. I didn't start designing until probably 1980, 85 or 6. And that came about, my mentor was Carol Mason. She came to work with me at Seabird, and she was a designer. She'd been a designer for, 10, 15 years before then. She started bringing her her portfolio and stuff to work and showing me the stuff she did, and she's got me all interested in everything, and so I decided to start sewing again. And this time I decided to add designs to my clothing, and this is where I started putting the symbols and onto my work. And so I've been designing since I guess 96 or 7 in there.
I'm born and raised from the Kamloops Indian Band. I'm Secwepemc from the Secwepemc Nation. My Kitka, my mother, is Vicky Manuel. My Gotcha, my father, is Paul Michelle from Adams Lake. I have 2 Kias, Flora Sampson and Charlotte Manuel. who are residential school survivors. I've actually had the opportunity to apprentice underneath my Kia Flora Sampson, 600 hours of Secwepemc Chin immersion. So, trying to continue with culture and language, especially, and raising my daughter in that through family and in the traditional ways of oral telling. Some of the obstacles that I face is because I'm a self-taught artist, a self-taught entrepreneur. Everything took a lot of time for me to learn, and I didn't go to school for this. It was something that I had to be willing to research on my own. So that was a big obstacle for me, and I feel like now that I know how to find the information and help myself, it's helped me become a better business owner and a better artist.
So I opened up my business in 1989 in Armstrong, BC, and I called that business Legacy Leatherworks. And I did that business for 10 years, and then I went into the equestrian show garment industry. So from there, I put my business online, and I dealt strictly with female customers. So I did one-of-a-kind showpieces for ladies that showed in horsemanship and Western pleasure. After that, I worked for a little Shuswap Indian band, and I was a customer service agent for the company, which really connected me with the communities. I got to know the people around here from both sides. I always knew that I'd go back to sewing, so I took a seasonal layoff, and a friend of mine that worked also at the hotel told me about the self-employment program through Work BC. And I launched my business at the Kamloops Powwow, which was really amazing. Like, it was so culturally, emotionally, spiritually, it was just such a great experience.
So my designing career started, actually I was an abstract energy artist to begin with. So channeling energy from the spirit world into bold shapes and colors on canvas. I really started to want to speak into my Coast Salish culture in a very authentic way. And so I sat in quiet times and asked myself, what is important to me to give back? What's authentic? And I love nature. So I wondered, how could I use Mother Earth and also put the color in with my fascination? So I just began researching a little, and I just was experimenting on how do I harness living color onto cloth. So it just started with an experiment, and from the first time that I unbundled a piece of cloth, I was just like knocked back at just how beautiful the color tones and just, it's precious work. In my Coast Salish heritage, the women were always chosen to do the foraging and gathering of plants and botanicals. And I feel so privileged to be picking and gathering just like my ancestors do. When I'm out foraging, I sometimes just run my hands across the rooted ones, and I can feel my ancestors in my work. And just keeping the stories alive of the rooted ones and the importance of how my culture was sustained on, we use plants for medicine. We use plants for food, for purpose, for ceremony, and for color dyeing. A lot of the weaving color tones came from the plants.
My biggest inspiration is Snow the Product, and she has a clothing line from one of her songs as well called Woke. So that's kind of like where I got the inspiration from, and once we started the clothing brand, it took off like a wildfire. I think the one thing that makes my brand unique is that it came from a song, and I flipped it and I turned it into this big, wildfire brand that took off. And we have designs from one of my tattoos, which is a wolf. We have different designs from my partner's culture. You know, we're really bringing the culture out into the creations, into the different designs. So my partner comes from the Six Nations territory, and he's Wolf Clan. And I come from Carry the Kettle, Saskatchewan, which is we're Plains Cree. We're able to bring the both cultures together and kind of like collaborate with his clan and my culture, which our designs are totally different.
I come from a large family. My mom was from Manickatoggin, Manitoba, Isabel Simard, and that's where the name Gigi came from. That's what everybody called her, Gigi. So I named the company after her.
Well, I have to say Carol Mason. She's a designer from the Blood Reserve, and she was the one that really inspired me, and she mentored me along the way. But there's also a lot of other First Nation designers out there, and at that time, there was only a few that I heard of. You know, one of them was Betty Ann Penier. I remember going to a fashion show, but I was looking at her clothing and I was thinking, I can do that, you know. Yeah. And then Dorothy Grant was another one. You know, she was probably one of the most popular one in BC. And the other one that kind of really inspires me was Angela de Montenay. She's been quite an inspiration for me, and she's doing very well back east. She's probably one of the most well-known designers back east, although there are lots across Canada, very talented designers all across Canada.
My greatest inspiration probably would have to be my daughter, because she's the whole reason why I started getting into this. She's the reason why I started, you know, wanting to teach myself how to get into regalia making. She's the reason why I wanted to have that representation out there for her, so that she had something and someone to look up to, you know, whether that be somebody wearing an Indigenous design for me, or whether that be her wearing regalia or a ribbon skirt made by me at a powwow or an event. She's my big inspiration behind everything, because I feel like, you know, I'm still a reconnecting Native in many ways. I didn't really have those opportunities growing up, so I want her to have those opportunities, you know, and grow up knowing, and grow up just feeling confident and proud of who she is as an Indigenous person.
My greatest inspiration is my family. I have an amazing partner who supports me in my business, who supports me as a woman. And my son is amazing. He has given me 3 beautiful grandsons. So part of my collection is called the Kokum Collection. So in Cree, Kokum is grandmother. And that is a big part of my inspiration, because I want to show my grandchildren to follow your dreams and never give up, and to believe in who you are as a person. I was my only obstacle in not believing in myself and not having enough faith that I was able to do it, and faith in my designs and in my work. And through doing the powwows, being online, it just reinforces that what I'm doing and the work that I put out there is good enough.
What I would love people to know about my fashion line is it's all inclusive. It's made to order wear. So I can custom fit or make my clothing to fit each body type. So it's just like nature. Nature doesn't go, hold up, you're way too big, you can't come into the forest. Neither does my clothes. It's for everybody. It's all inclusive. What I also would love people to know is it's just the right thing to do. It's a very kind approach to fashion. And I love being in the fashion industry, because fashion is a point of reconciliation. It brings up the conversations that we all need to have.
I want people to know about my work, that it's a family-run business. And a lot of the time it's me behind the scenes, sitting, doing numerous hours of, making the design, to creating it, to putting it on like different clothing. Like it's all female, it's all, woman empowerment.
The jewelry has gifted me with a lot of peace and a lot of pride, and it's helped me during my healing journey. It's also allowed me to share stories with people through the beadwork and have a lot of meaningful and positive experiences. At one time, we weren't allowed to wear our jewelry, and so I make sure that when I do the custom orders, they're really long and colorful, so with a story, so that when they're seen, they're noticed, and the person is able to share the story.
Dream big, because as a child, I never thought that I would accomplish anything. In fact, my high school teacher told me I would probably amount to nothing. And so you have that in your mind, when you're growing up. And so I just want people to know to dream big, because dreams turn into reality. Like I never thought that I would do some of the things that I've done, New York and Paris and those stuff. I never seen myself in those positions ever. And if I can do that, if a little First Nations girl from the mining community, northern mining community, can do that, I'm sure a lot of young people can do that. Just need to get themselves a mentor. I was fortunate to have one. And start, if you're really, really interested in designing, I would say start at a younger age, because I really didn't get into it until my 50s.
I feel like as an artist, especially as an Indigenous artist, I feel like a lot of pressure in many ways to speak on a lot of Indigenous issues, but it's not just about the Indigenous issues. It's a lot of the times about Indigenous resiliency, how we've overcome so many different things. So not focusing on, my designs, they might represent, MMIW, they might represent Every Child Matters, Indigenous issues like that, but also in a way I want my designs to also recognize the resiliency side of those issues as well. So
I think the message that my collection speaks to is the creative levels of what we think, putting your visions into motion, and really believing in who you are as a person, as an individual, as your culture, being proud of who you are. For myself, it's being proud of being a First Nations woman. I grew up not in a family that really discarded that was very, very, full of shame, and, so you held your head down and you didn't want to know your culture. So now for me, the message that I bring with the clothing that I do is to bring pride to the youth and to be who we are and to stand. And I think that in this time right now, with the reconciliation process, with the 215, I always say 215 awoke the world, and let's stay awake, and remember the residential schools, because everything about First Nations communities stems from residential schools. Our missing and murdered, our high incarceration rate, the alcohol, the drug abuse, all stems from that. It's intergenerational trauma. So coming out of that and standing for who we are is, I think, the message that I want to bring with my business. I had the pleasure of being introduced to Kim last year, so I've done a couple smaller shoots with her models. And Kim is like the matriarch. She is the matriarch to all these girls, all these women in the fashion industry. She has mentored these girls to believe in who they are, and gives them the lift that they need when they doubt themselves. And she has inspired other women, you know, and I find that amazing because you cannot buy that. That is one of the things that I have been introduced to in this fashion world. And I think that other girls that have seen this will go on and inspire other women to be who they are. You know, each one of them has their story, and each one of them has become victorious over their own story. And this is what Kim brings together through all these women. And it's not only First Nations women, it's the women of all nations that she brings together. And I love that concept because we are all First Nations of our own countries. You know, in the end, I consider us all like a stitch. If we stay together, we're strong. And if we're not, we fall apart.
So the missing, murdered Indigenous women has hit our communities really hard. What I can tell you is firsthand knowledge for my family. My grandma was 17 years old when my father was born, and he didn't know her because she was missing and murdered and left my father with no mother and no father. So the generational trauma, it really lived on through my family. And I never knew my grandma. She was 17 years old. And so, you know, art is such a healing place to be. I was born a natural artist. I didn't have to try to be an artist. I am an artist. It's just part of an extension of who I am. You can do so much healing through creation. And so that is where I put my energy, is into creation, things to give to the world.
You know, we were affected, we are affected by MMIWG, and in fact, my brother was missing, and you know, for a few months, and he was found on the riverbanks, the Red River, and also a cousin who was missing back in the 50s, and she was taken from her home in Manicautagan and brought out to Vancouver, BC, where she was also found missing and murdered. So our family's been affected by all kinds of trauma, from 60s scoop and MMIW and addictions, and you know, we've been plagued with it all.
Murdered and missing Indigenous women, that's kind of I'm very passionate in that area. And I think what really motivated me to get started in that area is my mom. In Northern Ontario, it wasn't the best place to grow up, and there was a lot of racism in my hometown. And so a lot of things happened to Indigenous women. Some of them went missing, you know, some of them were beaten and raped, and nothing happened. You know, you'd go to the police station and take all your evidence there, and the police would do nothing. And that happened to my mom when I was probably about 8 or so. You know, she was beaten, and she was raped, and she was beaten unconscious with a tire iron and thrown in the bush to die. And so she never told anybody. So to this day, the people that did that, they've gone free. They've gone free, and nothing happened to them. So when I began to hear about more and more Indigenous women going missing, I felt compelled to tell my mom's story. It's like I've become her voice, and I want people to know what happened, and I want people to know that somebody cares, because nobody cared at that time. Nobody cared. And sometimes I wonder nowadays if they still don't care. You know, because my niece went missing in 2008. And we looked and searched for her, and we never did find her. She was found on the banks of the Delta River 4 months later. And we still to this day don't know what happened to her. And so whenever there's a chance, I try to create as much awareness as I can about murdered and missing. And I will share stories that have happened to our women all across Canada. I talk about my mom. I talk about Helen Betty Osborne from Nepal. I talk about the little Tina Fontaine from Winnipeg. And I talk about my niece, Shawnee and Yali. And then the other girl that I also talk about is April Prejean, who is still missing. She went missing from Yale just a year and a half ago, and she's still never been found. And now we have Chelsea Poorman in Vancouver that just went missing. You know, and so they were just going to dismiss it again. They were going to sweep it under the rug again. But our people are standing up more. Our people are standing up more. And we need to get out there and create awareness, and we need to be out there telling people about what's going on. Otherwise, it's just going to continue.
So I had the opportunity to talk with Justin Trudeau while he was here last year, which was very emotional. I just spoke from my heart, honestly. In that speech, I wrote it just moments before I got to speak with Justin Trudeau too, because I didn't want to, say something. I just wanted to speak from my heart. I wanted it to just come naturally. I just believe in everything coming naturally to you. So that's just what came out. That's what I was feeling as an Indigenous mother, and I wanted him to know exactly how I felt as an Indigenous mother, and how other Indigenous mothers and fathers and parents and grandparents felt back in the day, when they lost their children. Their children never came home, and to this day we're still struggling to teach our children their language and their culture, and some of us don't grow up knowing. So I wanted him to know that, and I wanted him to know how I felt.
I think the biggest reason that I am so passionate about this is because I was abducted a week before my 16th birthday, and I was brutalized. I have a sister who was murdered, and the police didn't even try to find out who did it or why. There was no investigation, even though there were boot prints all over my sister's tiny little body. So this issue touches home for me. And this issue also speaks to human trafficking, and it speaks to the residential school system, and it speaks to Every Child Matters. There are so many Indigenous issues that belong to the world. We've been carrying it ourselves for a very long time, and it's time for that to end. So we're building allies, and we're traveling the world, and we've been to Paris, we're going to Cannes, we've been to New York, but the overseas is where we really want to try and focus. And the reason for that is because we believe that many of our missing Indigenous women and girls and Two-Spirit people are being sent abroad through human trafficking. So if we can make connections worldwide, and we can share the images of our missing and murdered, and they can share the images of their missing and murdered, then maybe we can put a stop to this. Maybe we can find a solution. Maybe we can bring some women home, bring some children home. These people all belong to somebody. They are all loved by somebody. They are missed by somebody. We need to try and find them. We need your help. Very pleased to be in the territory of the Secwepemc people, and I'm very honored that they have been hosting us for as long as they have. Thank you again, all of you, for being here. You're very important to us. We have 6 designers that we're going to be featuring this evening, and each of them brings their own unique perspective to fashion. And I really hope that all of you enjoy yourselves this evening and have lots of fun.
She's a boss lady. 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 Make no comparison and own my lane. Attract what I want by what I portray. Too busy working a meeting, no room to hate. If your work ain't up, stay out of my way. Wake up and hustle and grind by day. Not your born provider, a mother's forte. How to rise up, how to motivate. Boss up now, won't hesitate. Show my queens more than beauty, got brains. Ambitions of a rider, a boss lady. Get your hustle on and show 'em what you brought. Work to incline, daydreaming to the top. Life is yours, focus, dream, and believe. Anything you want, you're a queen you can achieve. Force more powerful advice to strive. Wake up, boss up, her hands to the sky. She's a boss lady. 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 She's a boss lady.
This is for the ones with their fists in the air, missing in the murder from here to there, seeking out justice and it don't seem fair. Push to the side, man, y'all don't care. This is for the ones with their fists in the air, fighting for the land that was already theirs, seeking out justice and it don't seem fair. Push to the side, man, y'all don't care. Mothers taking, babies raping, it's life changing. I'm praying for the life shaking. What kind of mind thinking? When it ain't no action taken, cause that's somebody's baby. Mother, child, sister, women not sacred. Overlooked, life shook, nobody listening. So pay attention, cause that could be your system missing. Why's the system filled with hate and racism? Relation, connection, listen, unification. Action for the happiness of your masses. When you're in the home, Indigenous, 500 years, and y'all still ain't hearing us. Murder's off the hook, why ain't nobody look? Treat it like your family member was took. This is for the ones with their fists in the air, missing in the murder from here to there, seeking out justice and it don't seem fair. Push to the side, man, y'all don't care. This is for the ones with their fists in the air, fighting for the land that was already theirs, seeking out justice and it don't seem fair. Push to the side, man, y'all don't care. M.I. Dub, finna digging deep on the topic. Too many spotted trying to get us to drop it. Still I stand here for the voices of demonstration. Who really hating with the statements I'm making? Get it figured, no more stolen sisters. What if your family member was up on
This is my dedication to murdered and missing Indigenous women. And the dress that she's wearing is called my teepee dress. And the figures on the dress are mothers, daughters, aunties, and families that have lost their loved ones. And the handprint is the handprint that we've used to identify murdered and missing.
Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Resiliency seniors for women.
Sticking out just to say it don't seem clear. Push to the side, man, y'all don't care. This is for the ones with the fists in the air. Fighting for the man who was already lost. Sticking out just to say it don't seem clear.
Protect, never rest, defend the lives of the rest. Reminded by the red dress, missing lives, murdered wives, can't count the deaths. On my mind, intertwined in loneliness, from the empty homes they left, for me to deal with, emotional distress, haunted dreams, no witness, to the pain and sufferance, victims without justice, reminded by the red dress. I can still hear your voice when you used to sing me to sleep. On that phone all night I wait to hear you speak. The long distance love makes me weak. I try to pretend that you'll be home next week. To meet my kids, they're so sweet. I miss having you kiss my cheek, to make me feel better when my mood's down real steep. I miss you, Mom, every day I weep. Protect, never rest, defend the lives of the rest. Reminded by the red dress, missing lives, murdered wives, can't count the deaths. On my mind, intertwined in loneliness, from the empty homes that they left, for me to deal with, emotional distress, haunted dreams, no witness, to the pain and suffering, victims without justice, reminded by the red dress. I drive by every day knowing that someone knows something, and I pray that I'll find a way to convince them to say, to think about what happened that day, and if at least I can find you peace, I'd let the Creator destroy that beast, who took my mother from me and my brothers, and left me alone to find my way. I love you, Mom, I still weep every day. Protect, never rest, defend the lives of the rest. Reminded by the red dress, missing lives, murdered wives, can't count the deaths. On my mind, intertwined in loneliness, from the empty homes that they left, for me to deal with, emotional distress, haunted dreams, no witness, to the pain and sufferance, victims without justice, reminded by the red dress. 1988 is a date that I hate. My life with my mom forced to separate. You didn't have to take my mom's life away. In my heart she stays. I still look for ways. For justice I pray. Rest in peace one day. Protect, never rest. Defend the lives of the rest. Reminded by the red dress. Missing lives, murdered wives, can't count the deaths. On my mind, intertwined in loneliness, from the empty homes that they left, for me to deal with, emotional distress, haunted dreams, no witness, to the pain and sufferance, victims without justice, reminded by the red dress.
And once again, hi, McRich, Cookstrom, thank you so much. I hope you have enjoyed this documentary about 6 incredible fashion designers and their stories and their journeys through fashion and art to healing.